Elden Ring is a great game. I love it. But there are some problems. So let's get down to 10 things I don't like / should be changed in Elden Ring. Because if I don't like them, they should be changed, of course. Starting with number 10. AFK farmers. Not a fan. That's putting it mildly. I don't like people sitting around AFK that you cannot kill when you invade them. Well, so it's a multi-layered problem. One, people are able to get places as the host before they allow other people to join their world that other players cannot get to now because they don't have a horse. But the host was able to get there because they did have the horse. And there are also invisible barriers and stuff like that that limit online players that appear after that online connection is placed, so the host has home field advantage in that situation. But then the host also gets souls and victory and all that, the victory stuff, when the invader realizes they cannot reach or kill the host, and so they leave. So and that's treated like a victory for the host, although the host is AFK and didn't do anything. And the host can activate the white ring, I believe. They can activate the white ring, which will last the entire time, to summon blues to defend them. Although they don't even need it, because if they can't be attacked or hurt or reached in any way, then the invader has to leave at some point, which is a victory for the host. And so the victory, it's weighted too heavily in the host. There needs to be some sort of balance there. Of course, you can't just ban AFK players because it is in the end part of the game. It's exploited, but it's part of the game. It's something that would be very difficult to fix. I don't know if there is a proper fix for it, honestly. Perhaps the proper fix would be a way for the invader to teleport behind the host, teleport to where they are. We do have the fingers that the invaders spawn with that allow them to relocate. Maybe they get an extra finger that allows them to relocate to where the host is. Number 9, and that is New Game Plus doesn't offer anything. The game is pretty big, so that's somewhat forgivable. This game seems to more emphasize creating another character instead of offering anything new in New Game Plus. There doesn't seem to be new enemy placements, new bosses, new mechanics. You get the standard drop rate and souls acquired are increased, but there's no incentive to play New Game Plus, really. In Dark Souls 2, common items, map drops or whatever, shinies, would be upgraded. So say it's a soul, or I guess in this case a rune 1. The basic rune 1 gives the least amount of runes in the game, and you pick it up from the ground. Well, in Dark Souls 2 New Game Plus, they would upgrade them accordingly. They would scale up in some cases to a certain degree. So instead of rune 1, it'd be like rune 3 or whatever. That'd be one thing to make it a little bit better. But honestly, it doesn't feel like anything went into New Game Plus. And it's sort of a shame for those who are used to New Game Plus. Although in this game, it's probably just better to make a new character. Number 8. Arrows and bolts are super slow. I feel like lots of things got upgraded and implemented upon, except for archery and crossbows. Bows and crossbows. Magic is super fast in this game. Why are the arrows and bolts still traveling in slow motion if the magic, which does more damage, is so much faster? That doesn't make sense to me. I feel like bows and crossbows could use a speed buff because they're lacking in damage for the most part. There are some weapons which do more, but that's a few out of the bunch of crossbows and bows that we have. I feel like across the board they need a speed increase, if not a damage increase, although I haven't tried speccing completely into a bow or crossbow build, so perhaps they do have the damage if you spec into it. Who knows? Those who tried playing it, I guess, know. Number 7, wonky boss animations. Bosses will hold their attack and then wait until you roll or whatever, and then hit you to roll catch. Or they'll wind up an attack, start to swing, pause the swing, and then finish the swing to throw you off. People in general are not a fan of that this time around. It seems that it was implemented for difficulty reasons. It does make the bosses harder. And people playing FromSoft games really love their difficulty. I feel like this was a step in the direction of difficulty as opposed to fun in this case. Well, that seems to be the general sentiment of those who complain about it. This happens to be one of the games where I don't actually like fighting the bosses. I do think the boss animations being all wonky became detrimental to the game. But I'm not an expert on it, and I realize that it is definitely a matter of choice in this scenario, because some people really like the difficulty that those variable animations afford. I myself am not one of those people, so of course it doesn't appeal to me as much. Number 6, invasion restrictions. This one really hurts the longevity of the game for me. What do I mean by invasion restrictions? I mean you can only invade someone if they have another cooperator in their world, or they've used the Taunter's Tongue. Lots of people like the fact that they can't be invaded unless they have specifically allowed it through game circumstances to be invaded. That's kind of the balance when summoning a cooperator, is you could be invaded. Well, that hurts the longevity of the game and the fact that it becomes harder to invade people because the invading pool is smaller because of the amount of people has been reduced, because they must be willing participants of invasion, or if not willing, at least expectant participants of invasion in a different method than it ever was before. You're not likely to invade someone who doesn't have a cooperator in this game. But being open world, again, there's a lot going into it in this game. There's lots of things that affect the balance, like it's open world. There's no shortage of enemies for the invader to use to back up their fight against the host, to maybe put odds back in their favor when the host has 2 phantoms. But then again, in open world, the enemies are very spread out, and very likely the host and his 2 phantoms can kill them instantly. So, but that's besides the point. The initial point was the invasion pool is really small because only invaders or only cooperators or Taunter's Tongue users can be invaded. I would like more of a system like Dark Souls 2 had. Oh, look at that, Dark Souls 2 did something better. Again, that's because Dark Souls 2 was a masterpiece. In Dark Souls 2, you could be invaded in almost any circumstance unless you were offline. You could be invaded, but the chance was very small, depending. If you have not killed the boss, if you are human, not hollow, the chance of being invaded goes up. If you have killed the boss, a online sort of debuff system would enact itself, and that would make it so that you can't be invaded for half an hour, and then you could choose to burn a human effigy, which is like a for-calling finger remedy in this game, to extend that buff, or debuff, or however you're looking at that online nullifier. If it ran out, you could choose to start it again, and people wouldn't invade you, and you wouldn't cooperate either. But even if the boss was killed, you could still be invaded, although albeit a very small chance. That's what I think this game needs. A way that you could be invaded in almost any circumstance, and you have to use for calling finger remedies by burning them at the site of grace in order to prevent invasions and cooperations. I feel like players should be able to be invaded in many more circumstances than they currently are to increase the invasion pool and the online longevity of this game, because the online longevity of the game will greatly contribute to the longevity of the game overall. So I would like less invasion restrictions. I just remembered another mechanic that was present in previous FromSoft games, Souls games particularly. If the invasion system could not detect any hosts within the area that you were, the immediate area, to invade, the search would start to expand to envelop other areas nearby that you have visited already, as to avoid spoilers. That would be a wonderful system in this game, because I spend a lot of time trying to invade and I can't find anyone. Where perhaps there's someone with a world that could be invaded in the next area over, and it just isn't searching that area. It'd be great if, especially if you got into New Game Plus, the invasion pool expanded to all the areas when it was taking too long to find someone in the immediate area that you were in. Again, technology that was in previous Souls games that for some reason just didn't make its way to Elden Ring, that I think should be implemented. Number 5. Covenants. Why aren't covenants in this game? Well, I have a theory that they have done away with covenants for the most part, or they have fundamentally changed how covenants work. However, covenants still filled a spot that this game is currently lacking, which again increased the longevity of this game, especially in the online realm. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with covenants, covenants were a way to mix up the approach to online play. For the most part, sometimes they were PvE. There was always a way to complete covenants through PvE means, completely offline, but they were mainly intended to change how you approach online play. And they would offer rewards and special lore, stuff like that. But the main thing was they changed how you approached online play. Now we're completely missing covenants from this game, Elden Ring. We do have some items which provide functions that covenants previously would allow, such as the Way of Blue. Now we have the white ring and the blue ring, which allow summoning and being summoned to another player's world to help fight off an invader. But that's the only covenant-like system that has been returned to this game. We're lacking what covenants used to provide in the game. Now, we don't necessarily need covenants. We could take the approach of, oh, there are just vendors who sell items which allow you to enter the online play in a different method. We don't need covenant leaders specifically for that, as evidenced by the white ring and blue ring. But what covenants offered in the way of changing online play, of spicing things up, of increasing the longevity of the game, is lacking and needs to be fixed, in my opinion. Alright, number 4. Music. You know, actually, these aren't in a particular order of how important they are to me or how egregious they are. I made a list. This isn't actually a particular order. It's just I made a list, and this is the order I wrote them down in. So music isn't actually the worst part. It doesn't deserve the number 4 spot, but I don't like the music in this game, especially the area music. That's what I don't like. The boss music, there's some good boss music in this game, but the area music, the one note that gets screeched over and over for like one note playing for 10 seconds at a time, I don't like that music. Where's my... I grew up on games like Legend of Zelda and Kirby with the amazing background music, and then we have this screeching music. Granted, very different games, but I love background music that I can listen to on my own time and it still sounds good. This background music does not sound like that, If you listen to it on its own, it'd be awful. I don't like the music. Number 3. How should I put this? Lack of realism / historical accuracy. Now hold on. Don't immediately go to the comment section raging, "This is a fantasy game, how dare you ask for realism / historical fantasy." Yes, this is a fantasy game. Yes, there's a certain, it is a video game, so certain allowances should be made in that regard. Let me explain what I actually mean by realism / historical accuracy. I mean that although the game is a fantasy, it's grounded in certain realities and laws of physics that we understand, and when it will specifically tell us which laws of reality and physics and that are circumvented through the fantasy means of this world. And when it tells us that things should work exactly as they do in our world, but they don't, or something's off, that breaks immersion. And so maybe a better way to put this is non-immersion breaking elements, and also stuff nerds would enjoy. There's lots of stuff that goes into this. I'm only making it one point. It could be many points. Also, I'm not a historian. I'm not qualified to say what's realistic and what's historically accurate. There are much more qualified people than me that have made amazing videos. One that comes to mind, his name is Shadiversity, or his YouTube channel name is Shadiversity, and he makes excellent videos on this very subject, specifically referencing Elden Ring, but I'll touch on a few right now, such as crossbows. When you reload your crossbows, you're doing it with your own hand. Why? Well, okay, so if you don't know about crossbows, this one isn't a big deal to you. If you do know about crossbows, then maybe it's more glaring. The setting up a crossbow to get it ready to fire takes a tremendous amount of force, too much force for the animation that our character currently uses. They would need to use a stirrup or a winch or whatever other historically accurate mechanism that people of history actually used to be able to reload a crossbow, because it takes a lot of work. Other things like how weapons interact, how the player character uses weapons. Sometimes they use them poorly. Some weapons are too heavy for how they were historically and are used improperly. A lot of weapon animations are bad, but the katanas are spot on, where the European swords are not in the weapon animations, because they have more familiarity with the katanas, meaning that the weapon movesets perhaps are that way not because of gameplay balancing, but because of lack of knowledge, of ignorance in that field. Other historical inaccuracies / realism, immersion breaking stuff would be the armor for me. I'm a big stickler in the armor of these games because I like good looking armor, and then I don't have a problem with fantasy armor. I don't have a problem with fantasy weapons, but I like realistic historical armor mixed in it, and then maybe they add some fantasy. They did that really well in Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 with the historical armor, but it's fantasized to fit the world. I'd like more of that in this game, just more armor. This is a big subject. There's lots to it. Say like bows in this game rely primarily on dexterity instead of strength, when in reality they should weigh heavily into strength to be able to use the bows more than they do, because it takes a lot of strength to use high poundage bows, for example. Another issue I have personally with the game is the breastplates of this game. There's a lot of solid piece breastplates, but there's no... Where are the segmented breastplates? I don't know the proper word for this. The breastplates where they have mainly two pieces so that the user can bend forward. We're kind of lacking those in this game. In fact, we're lacking them entirely, so that when our characters do bend over, the character model warps the breastplate. In general, that's a big pet peeve of mine. When the armor, the shortcomings of the articulation of the armor are emphasized because the character model bends and the armor, where it should have been made with segments, was not properly made with segments, so the armor just molds and bends with the character model. I hate that. It's just a pet peeve though. I understand the many limitations that go along with it. Again, it's a very broad category. That's why it's so high on this list. And there are much more qualified people than me to talk about it. But, if anything, that's a testament to how egregious it is. Someone who's not too knowledgeable on the subject, or at least not enough to be qualified, talking about these immersion breaking historical inaccuracies. Even though it's a fantasy game, it is immersion breaking, and even I can see that. So if they fix those, it would help even to the noobs and those who are completely uninformed. It'd just be more realistic. It'd be like, oh yeah, that's the way a sword is supposed to be used. Wow, I feel amazing using this sword properly. I don't even know how to use a sword, but I can tell this guy is using it right. You know, that sort of thing. Number 2, right? I'm on number 2. Player cap. Online player cap. The online player cap is at 4. This is the first game since... okay. Never mind. I was going to say it was the first game since Dark Souls 1 that had a player cap of 4. But I believe Bloodborne also had a player cap of 4. Or maybe 3. I can't remember. The PvP in Bloodborne sucked. If you think otherwise, you're wrong. That's a joke, by the way. Well, no, it's not. Honestly, I really did not like the PvP of Bloodborne. And if you enjoyed it, good on you. I think it was very bad. But that's besides the point. This game has a player cap of 4. That drastically hurts the online play. At least for me, I think it hurts it overall for the entire game. A player cap of 4 is very bad for this game, I would say. I understand that it's probably because of technical reasons. The game stutters and has frame rate problems already, loading in the map and all the visuals in that in an open world game for just one player, let alone 4. Not even getting to 6, where we should be. We had 6 players in Dark Souls 1 remastered, not original Dark Souls. But they realized, hey, 6 players is better. It is evidence of them realizing 6 players is better when they go back to Dark Souls 1 and they add 6-player online play. Dark Souls 2 started with 4, they upped it to 6. Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin was the first instance of upping the player count to 6 in online play, a maximum of 6. And then Dark Souls 3 came out right out of the gate with a 6-player maximum. Helped it tremendously. The drawbacks of a 4-player maximum are easily seen. They are egregious. What are the problems? Well, right now, a host can have 2 friendly phantoms, meaning the only space left is for an invader. And the invader is now fighting 3 players, not very friendly to the invader. In a 6-player maximum, there would be the possibility of the host, his 2 phantoms, and 3 invaders, making it a 3-on-3 fight. Now, again, there are enemies in the world, but that was always a component that the host would have to work against. It was maybe it's just because I'm used to it, it's because I want it, but it feels like the waiting is against the invader in this situation. Well, it's not, it doesn't just feel like, it is against the invader, because the host and his 2 phantoms are going to be more than a match for most enemies in the open world. Legacy dungeons, quite possibly too, because the balancing of this game is more of a balancing of attrition than it is of short and difficult encounters. So the encounters are more spread out, there's less enemies, and they're less difficult as a whole than as opposed to other Souls games. Bringing the player count up would drastically help the invaders, help the online health of the game. Now, also, the lack of covenants or covenant-like mechanics and different ways to approach the online sphere of gameplay might be a reason why we're stuck at 4 players, because we don't really have the conflicting interests of different covenants that are invading and entering the host's world that want different things. But is that necessary for Elden Ring, for having 6-player online multiplayer in Elden Ring? No, I don't think so. Invaders can already do friendly fire to other invaders, so I feel like a 3v3 scenario is perfectly acceptable. Also hurts fight clubs, also hurts tournaments and other online stuff that players would like to engage on their own. So again, the point was raise the player cap in online multiplayer from 4 to 6, please. It's a step back, in my opinion. Alright, that was number 2. Now for some honorable mentions. No dueling arenas in Elden Ring. Well, no dueling arenas that we can use. There are 3 present in Elden Ring, revealed by glitches, data mining, hacking, that sort of thing. We have 3 arenas in the game that we can't use. Now, personally, I don't think they're very necessary. Just put down a red sign and duel. But for those who are trying to just fight a wide variety of players, I do see the appeal for an arena. They already have the assets in the game. Why don't they just finish them? They might just appear in a DLC or a patch down the road. And that's what I'm hoping, because the assets are already in the game. Just finish them, please. I can see some people want it. I don't think it's really necessary. But why go halfway and then stop? Another honorable mention. No Gothic armor is in this game. I want my Gothic armor, please. I think it fits. I think it could go in this game. Gothic armor is amazing. I love it. I love how it looks. I need a good sallet, at least. Please, if nothing else, just the sallet. I would like the good sallet. I realize there's one sallet in this game, and it looks ugly. I hate the thing, because I want a proper sallet. Elden Ring, please give me a sallet. I mean, From Software. That's a name of a helmet, by the way. A style of helmet. Another honorable mentions. Ugly armor. Why is the heaviest armor in this game, the Havel Replacer, so ugly? That Bull Goat armor? Why are so many of the armors ugly? I want nicer looking armors. You can leave the armor that's already in the game as it is. Just give me more armor that looks nice. Like Sir Gideon's, ugly. Bull Goat, ugly. Dung Eater, ugly. Although that makes sense, because he eats dung. But you get my point. I just want more armor, more of it. I should make a little addendum. Sir Gideon's armor, his helmet, pretty cool. I'm a fan of Corinthian style helmets. The rest of it, ugly. And the knight armor that gets reused for every area in the game, the knight enemies who have the big shields and the spears. There's the Godric variant and the Radon's, the Red Mane variant and the Cuckoo variant of the knights. If you understand what I'm talking about, they have the really tall, narrow helmet. I'm fine with the armor, except for the helmet. That sort of helmet is reminiscent to me of a frogmouth or jousting helmet, specifically helmets made for jousting, why would they be wearing that helmet in battle? I mean, yeah, technically you could use those kind of helmets in battle, but they're very visually limiting even compared to other full helmets. It's that helmet style in this game is too popular for people on foot who are not jousting, is what I mean. They're using primarily what looks to be a helmet designed for a function that they are not using it for. It's a misrepresentation of the helmet. I mean, I don't know how I can explain this or word this in a different way other than saying they're using the things wrong because, well, perhaps they just don't know. The developers perhaps the developers just don't know that it's not a good helmet for what they're using it for. Who knows? Or maybe it's probably they just like how it looks. I don't like how it looks. Maybe it's just that. Another honorable mention. There's no Iron Wind Blade. I would like Iron Wind Blade. It's Iron Twin Blade. My bad. Sadly, no Twin Blade in this game, Elden Ring, has the same moveset. I just want a Twin Blade with the same moveset as the Iron Wind Blade. It doesn't have to have the same stats. Last honorable mention, Rivers of Blood. I hate the weapon. Right now, as of the recording of this video, Rivers of Blood is the most popular weapon in the game. And I just hate running into it again and again and again. Especially because it just has so much going for it. It's a very good weapon right now. The scaling is amazing. The base damage is amazing. It does bleed. Its weapon art gives it much more extra range than the considerable amount of range it already has. And it hits multiple times. It's just too strong right now, and so many people are using it. That's the big problem. So many people are using it. Yeah, I want it nerfed. I would not be sad if this weapon was nerfed to the ground. Although I'm not a fan of weapons not being viable at all in the first place. So maybe a little nerf, enough so that it's not miles above all the other weapons. Alright, that's it for honorable mentions. Now for number 1 on this list. The worst thing about Elden Ring that absolutely must be changed is that prism stones are not visible to other players that enter your world. Why? You place a prism stone down, you summon your friend, or someone invades you, they cannot see the prism stone. It's not there in their world. What? This is a step back from Soft. Dark Souls 1 had that, Dark Souls 2 had that, I don't know about Bloodborne, but when someone entered your world, they could see the prism stones. Why can't they in Elden Ring? Well, you might say, oh, well, so in those games, people would overload the characters who entered their world by the sheer amount of prism stones and crash their computer or their game console or whatever. They would, or hurt their frame rate. But Elden Ring already has mechanics in place to limit that, specifically with the rainbow stones. They're not prism stones, but they're the same thing. Rainbow stones in Elden Ring. In Elden Ring, if you place a rainbow stone and then go a distance away, the particle effect of your rainbow stone will disappear. Go even farther away and the glow will disappear and all you can see is the stone with no effects. Go even farther away and the stone disappears entirely. This is to help your system be able to process it. If you place too many prism stones, they have the technology to limit it so that the prism stones are not overriding the system. So why then, when players enter the world, can they not see the prism stones? This is a problem. From what I've seen, people want to make a ring of rainbow stones to show their Fight Club arena. And then they get mad that people don't stay within their Fight Club arena because they cannot see the Fight Club arena. Why even have prism stones and prism stone arrows if they don't even last, if they don't work right? And you can't just put an infinite number of prism stones into the game, because once you hit a certain amount of prism stones in the world, the old ones start disappearing. There's already mechanics in place to limit the problems that to eliminate the problems that prism stones create. So if all those problems are addressed, why are prism stones not visible to other players who have entered the world when it was present in previous games like Dark Souls 1 and the masterpiece that is Dark Souls 2? It is amazing how many of the complaints I have in Elden Ring were fixed in Dark Souls 2 and for some reason were forgotten about for Elden Ring. Dark Souls 2 isn't perfect. I like joking that it is, but Dark Souls 2 did seriously have a lot of fixes and improvements from as opposed to Dark Souls 1 in certain areas of play that for some reason were not brought forward into Elden Ring, which doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, that's my top 10 things plus a few more of stuff I want changed in Elden Ring. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comments if there's anything I missed that needs to be fixed in Elden Ring, or that you disagree with, or that you do agree with. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I will hopefully see you next time. Until then, take care.